All right, guys, give me a second here. We'll get started here shortly. I was just updating my Windows XP ThinkPad. Well, formerly Windows XP. Yes, you can use Linux to revive a Windows XP ThinkPad. It's almost done. Give me a moment and we'll get started on why Windows users say Linux sucks. And welcome to the first episode of Linux OS Today, or Lost. All right, so it looks like the ThinkPad is updated. All good to go, so I'm just going to shut this down here. All right, I'll put that ThinkPad to the side. By the way, if you are new to Linux and would like to try Linux installing it yourself, refurbished ThinkPads are probably going to be your best bet if you have the time. If you don't have the time and still curious about Linux, pick up a Chromebook. All right, so tonight's stream, I'm using what may be currently the best $12 lavalier microphone you can buy by Boya, B-O-Y-A. I just checked on Amazon. It's $12. I'm using it now. I think it's incredible value. All right, let me fire up VLC here. We'll listen to some audio I recorded on my, about 10 reasons why Windows users might say Linux sucks. Let's take a listen. All right, welcome to the first episode of Linux OS Today, or Lost. All right, let's take a look at 10 reasons why some Windows users may say that Linux sucks. All right, reason number one, you need to use the terminal. All right, look, my favorite terminal is the Orlando International Airport. Now, I can't sit here and promise you that you will never have to use the terminal to fix something in Linux. Maybe once or twice. Yeah, I could probably promise you that. But today's user-friendly Linux distributions like Linux Mint, Zorin, and Chrome OS, very, very seldom, if ever, you need to use the terminal. All right, reason number two, you were lied to. Somebody said Linux is easy. All right, my next door neighbor, Dolly here, I'm going to hand her a USB stick of Gentoo Linux for something for her to try over the weekend. All right, look, some Linux is easy. Obviously not all of it. There are hundreds and hundreds of choices. Some Linux is easy. Out of the hundreds of choices, you could probably count on one hand, maybe two at the most, that are designed for newbies. So some Linux certainly is easy. All right, number three, there are too many choices. Okay, well, nobody said you have to try all hundreds of Linux-based systems. Again, the choices are there for you to try later. Once you get advanced in the usage of Linux, if you choose to move on to get something more in-depth like Arch Linux or Gentoo or something else, sure, you can certainly take a look at the other choices out there. But nowadays, Linux has gotten easier. Just remember that not all of Linux is easy, obviously. But the choices there are simply that, just choices for you to choose to use or not. All right, there is a perception of complexity when using Linux. Now, maybe this was true 20 years ago when I got started, certainly. Maybe 10 years ago. Not anymore, really. I mean, nowadays, if you just search YouTube and just type in Linux for beginners, I think that perception of complexity is pretty much gone. Again, there are a handful of beginner-friendly Linux-based systems that are certainly not complex to use and to try at least. So don't worry about that. I think it's gotten easier. All right, next reason, hardware or driver issues. All right, this still might be true with some hardware, maybe some graphics cards or some printers. It certainly was worse in the past, but it has gotten much, much better. So I wouldn't let hardware drivers scare you from trying Linux. All right, the next reason, the Linux community is mean. What the frack are you talking about? I'm just kidding. Well, I hope we are not mean over here over the years. So if you went to some community and they were mean, may I suggest don't go there anymore. All right, next reason, you tried Linux before and it sucked. Okay, I believe you, but when did you try it before? Was it 20 years ago, 10 years ago? And if you tried it, which did you try? If I can make a suggestion, maybe you did try it 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and it sucked. If I can make a suggestion, get a Chromebook. If you know someone with a Chromebook, just try it. Just log in, try it, see what you think. And if you still say Linux sucks, okay, maybe it's not for you. But I am 99% sure if you try a Chromebook, I doubt you will say that Linux sucks. You may want to see more, and that's fair, more of what Linux has to offer, not just a Chromebook. But I have a feeling if you try a Chromebook first, after you said years ago that Linux sucked, I think that may change your mind. All right, next reason, you have to use Windows for work. I believe you, but what about at home? Do you have to use Windows at home? Do you have a spare computer around that you can try? I can tell you that ThinkPads in Linux work pretty darn good. I have all three of them. I even have one that has had Windows XP that still runs. I got another one that had Windows 7 that still runs with Linux, and a newer one has Windows 11 on it. So you have to use Windows at work, but what about at home? All right, next reason is you need specific software like at work. Again, I believe you, but what about at home? Do you need to use the same specific software at home? All right, final reason number 10, you don't want to erase Windows. All right, if somebody gave you advice to erase Windows as a newbie and go into Linux, maybe you need new friends. All right, jokes aside, obviously you don't have to erase Windows. You can try it off a USB stick. It's not the best way to try a Linux-based system. Again, if you have a spare machine or if you search on Amazon, there are tons of refurbished ThinkPads for you to buy for $200 or less that run Linux very well. Again, I have several of them with Linux and they run quite well. All right, so before my neighbor Dolly slaps me in the face for that recommendation for Linux, I hope this helps you out in some of the reasons why some Windows users may say that Linux sucks. Things have changed, it's gotten better, but some Linux is easy, certainly. All right, that's all I have for this one. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Linux OS Today, or Lost. Yes, it is a play on words, but Linux OS Today is lost. So if you are lost, you've certainly come to the right place because sometimes I get lost. All right, stay warm. I'll catch you on the next one. Arrivederci. Well, this certainly sucks. I just ran out of wine. No, Linux, not Linux wine, red wine. Here at the house. Ugh. All right, I'll try to continue. No, seriously, I actually ran out of wine. I'm like, no. It's like that commercial for what? Charmin paper towels, right? No, I need red wine. Oh, never mind. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think those reasons I gave why in today's world, Windows users may still say Linux sucks. I think that's about as 10 fair reasons as I can give. You know, when I started this channel years ago, I did it because there wasn't enough or there was too much confusing, maybe, information about Linux for Windows users. It's gotten a little better, but I think the information, at least some of it, is still confusing. It's somewhat misguided, as it were. You know, here at the channel, here at Total OS, I try to cut through all the fluff and just get right to the point, because I think in today's world, especially post-pandemic, people don't have time for nonsense, as it were. They just want to get their work done or get their playing done, whether it's just to get on the computer, get online, do what they have to do, stream a movie, stream this Total OS podcast, or whatever, and want to do it without having to fix anything. Okay? And there are very few Linux distributions that can accommodate that without at least some kind of tweaking here and there. That's why Chromebooks outsold Macs. They're just nothing to fix. It's the most affordable Linux machine out there. And that's why I think Chromebooks and now Chromebooks Plus continue to sell. But if you have the time and don't mind trying to solve a problem, now all problems cannot be fixed. Just a few days ago, I gave Ubuntu another crack at a full install. Okay, on a full install test, not a virtual machine or anything like that. I had trouble with the boot. I had trouble getting past the boot screen. Now, as a Windows user, maybe I'm rare. I have lots of patience for Linux as a Windows user, but at some point in today's world, if I can't solve the problem in about an hour with my experience, something's wrong with that particular form of Linux, at least for Windows users. So I no longer use Ubuntu on a daily basis. It's just not worth the headache. So you should try Linux Mint. Ubuntu Mate is good. Zorn OS and Chrome OS on a Chromebook. Those are going to give you probably the least amount of headaches. And those systems, as one of the 1 billion Windows users out there and growing, those systems are going to give you the best chance of not saying Linux sucks. And I know a lot of you are still lost. That's why I'm calling this episode Linux OS Today or Lost, because that's just the truth. Yeah, I'm trying to be funny and hopefully I am, but it's the truth. You know, when I mention Linux to my friends, they're like, I get it. If I mention a Chromebook, oh yeah, they've heard of Chromebooks. Well, that's good. That's a start when it comes to Linux. And anyway, I could just ramble and ramble after almost 20 years of using Linux, and this is not a rambling podcast. I just wanted to get to the point of why I think today, why some Windows users, maybe a lot of Windows users may say that Linux sucks. And probably a lot of you, I'm guessing a lot of you tried Linux in the past. And maybe it didn't work or it was a disaster. For whatever reason, maybe it wasn't your fault, I don't know. But I would bet my whole office that if you said in the past Linux sucks, I bet if you bought a Chromebook or tried somebody's Chromebook, okay, based on Linux, a form of Linux, modified version of Linux, I bet if you tried that and see how fast the Chromebook is, there's nothing to fix. You don't have to use the terminal. It just works. I'm willing to bet that you would not say Linux sucks. I think you would be more curious about Linux. Okay? Now, if you try a Chromebook and you still say Linux sucks, well, hey, there's nothing that I can do to convince you to try Linux. Those are the facts. But I'm willing to bet, once again, that in the past, if you said Linux sucks, just try a Chromebook first. And then go from there. I think you will be surprised. All right, well, I don't have any more wine to drink. Shall I end this podcast? You know what? Let me go jump in the chat to see if anybody's here. This was an unscheduled podcast. Let me switch here. And tonight I am running Linux Mint Mate. I am using a $12 lapel microphone, guys. Looks like we have some people here. I am using a $12 lapel microphone. If somebody, Matt, Joseph, Penguin are in the house here, let me know how do I sound. But I think this is the best freaking lapel microphone for $12 I've ever tried. And I've never tried the lapel microphone before. Matt says you love Linux, going to encourage your family to jump into Mint. Good choice. Joseph, how are you? You made a command line script to convert Linux Mint 22XE version to a KDE respin. Okay, well, I can't recommend that for beginners, but that's great. The only thing open source has down is Heroic Launcher. What is the Heroic Launcher? Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. But yes, gaming for Linux is getting better. I would have to agree. Yes. All right, so when I started this, I was checking for updates on my Windows, formerly Windows XP ThinkPad. I was able to install MX Linux on it. So far, so good. This year, I'm looking forward to, if it happens, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the immutable version of Ubuntu. I think that's going to save people like myself a lot of freaking headaches, because Ubuntu just is not as reliable as what it used to be. Now, immutable is nothing new. Chromebooks have perfected that immutable type of system quite well. And I'm curious to see if Ubuntu can match it, because that is the only system, the Chromebook, where I've never had to fix anything. So I am curious if Ubuntu can pull it off. Very curious. All right, so you think Fedora makes a better immutable system than Ubuntu? I really don't know. That may be true, yeah. You know, even though I don't use Ubuntu daily anymore, it has a special place in my heart because my first date with Linux was with Ubuntu back in '06. So that's why I'm still curious as to what Ubuntu has to offer beyond what they're offering now, which, at least for sometime, it's just junk. I really hate to say that, but man, you know, a couple years ago, I installed Ubuntu full install. I had no sound. I thought, well, okay, let me try it on a different desktop. I couldn't boot into it. I mean, seriously. I was just searching the web for Canonical's immutable Ubuntu, but as of November, there are no updates to it, and nothing this year so far. So I guess we'll have to wait a little bit longer. All right, so Vanilla OS is immutable and based on Ubuntu. I think I tried to test that, and I had trouble booting into that or something. I can't remember, Joseph, exactly what happened, but that rings a bell that I could not test it for whatever reason. Yeah, I could be wrong on that, but I'll have to take a look at it again and see what's up with that. But Vanilla OS rings a bell. Yeah. And Vanilla OS is heavy too. They recommend 8 gigs of RAM. I'm just looking at it. Wow. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I mean that's getting back to the 10 reasons why Windows users may say Linux sucks in today's world. I think that pretty much covers it. That being said, if you are a Windows user, have never tried Linux before, you really should at least try. I did, and I'm still here. I think Linux has the potential to really blow your mind. Isn't Nitrix Linux immutable? I don't know. Well, I just realized I have about 2 gigabytes of updates from my Linux Mint. Wow, okay. I'm going to do that as soon as I'm done here doing this podcast. All right, well, let's see. I think this is all I had to say for this evening. Yeah, I would have to agree. A Pop! OS immutable version will certainly turn heads if it happens. Yes, because Pop! OS by System 76 is based here in the States, I believe in Colorado. They've done very well with Pop! OS, with a modified version of the GNOME desktop with some proper extensions. But if they were to go immutable, that would certainly get my curiosity. Yeah, I'm tempted to install Vanilla OS as a full install, but man, it wants 8 gigs of RAM. That's a lot. That is a lot. Okay, anyway, for a Linux system anyway. All right, I'm going to give this a 5-minute warning, then we're going to wrap it up, unless there are any more questions or comments, or if anybody else is out there watching, would like to say hello, who have a question, maybe has never had a chance before, please do it. Do it, you can do it, as Arnold would say. Do it, you can do it. Do it now. Yeah, Fedora's been around a long time also. Man, this really sucks. I ran out of red wine. It's really, ugh. Oh well. My fault. I forgot to get some today. I think the fact that I couldn't use Ubuntu, I think that may have been my problem with Wayland versus Zorg. I did some research after Ubuntu launched for me. I think it was Wayland. It's still years off. Where it can be trusted. I'm looking at a good deal on a Lenovo Chromebook Flex touchscreen for $399 shipped. That's not bad. Yeah, I don't see Zor going away anytime soon, Joseph. Yeah, it just works. It's been around a long time, I know, but it just works. Wayland does not. Wayland needs to go away, as it were, because it doesn't seem to be the answer. And by the way, if you folks still have to use Windows for whatever reason, you can install Windows on an unsupported, supposedly unsupported PC. I've done it 3 times using Rufus USB Creator. It works. Yes, it can be done. And it runs better than Ubuntu, because Ubuntu doesn't run at all. I never thought I would say that, but it's true. Oh, well. All right. Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap this up for tonight. Those were my thoughts on why Windows users might say Linux sucks, my 10 reasons in today's world. Not much has changed, has it, huh? Thank everyone here in the chat who joined in. Those of you who catch this later, I'm really trying to, get back the way we were pre-pandemic, but hey, it's a changed world. What can I say? But I'm still around, guys. You guys know how to reach me. Good night, Joseph. Good night, everybody else. I'll catch you on the next one. Arrivederci, my friends.